mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're just seeing a couple of last people logging in. We're just going to leave it to 2 or 3 minutes just to give them a chance to get sorted, and then we're going to kick off at about 2 or 3 minutes past 2. Thanks a lot. Okay, numbers seem to have settled down. There's not too many on today's webinar anyway, so I think we'll kick off. So welcome to the T-Levels Construction On-Site and Building Services Engineering webinar. There is one of the webinars today, and we're also running the same webinar on the 8th of September. So just to let you know, if you've seen that other webinar on the 8th of September, it's a similar theme. We're trying to get similar feedback, just to make sure you don't double up. So if any staff do miss today's webinar, obviously this will be repeated then, which came out in the same newsletter, which you've probably found the link to today's webinar in. So it will be repeated on the 8th if any staff couldn't make today and wanted to give their input. So what we're going to be talking about today. So the agenda is, we're going to introduce you to who's on the webinar in a minute. That's similar people who've run previous webinars for those who've attended those. We're then going to look at where we are with the project, the milestones, how we're meeting the milestones, and whether we're on track or not. Colleagues are going to support with telling us where we are around things with regards to product development. We're then going to basically spend the rest of the webinar trying to input into what we're going to be developing to support you guys over the next 12 months. So the way we're going to do that, on your control panel, if you like, from the webinar, there's a questions tab. So later on, we're going to be asking the question, and I'm going to give the heads up now so you can start thinking about that. We're going to hopefully promote some discussion, and that can either be typed discussion or we can unmute you during that discussion point so you can get things across verbally. And we're going to be basically asking you what you need support with to deliver T-levels over the next 12 months. And that's, you know, an overall discussion point. I'm not going to go into detail yet at the moment, but it can be anything. You know, it might be, it's going to be what webinars you want us to put on. Do you need support with specific things like curriculum planning? So we're going to run through what we've thought you need at the moment, but obviously what we think you need and you actually need could be two different things. So we want to ensure we try and get a bit of feedback on what we are planning to try and ensure the support is what centres actually need. So that's the gist of today's webinar. A quick update of where we are, and then basically to open it up to you guys to say, right, here's what we're planning for the next 12-month countdown, if you like, and how can we support you through to that September 2021 delivery. So on the webinar today, we've got the technical advisor for construction, Jason Howe, who's leading from a construction on-site side of things from the technical advisor side, and there's myself, Rob Mallender. I'm leading from technical advisor side of things from building services. We've then got the industry manager for building services on the webinar as well, Salim Visram. Salim's going to be monitoring that questions function. So you can ask questions throughout the webinar about anything you want, or start thinking about what we've just discussed earlier. Start typing that function in. Salim's going to be monitoring that as we go through the slides. And then we've got product specialist from our partners in the project, EAL, Michael Scarrett. And there's all our contact details on there. But obviously, if you've been through previous webinars, we're not all going to introduce ourselves. I think you've probably been introduced to us a few times previously. We'll crack on with what we need to get through. So I'm now going to hand over to Jason on the slide there, just to go through where we are with the overall project, really, and how we're meeting the various milestones we've got to meet, etc.
Thanks very much, Rob. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope the sun is shining wherever you guys are in England and the UK. But yeah, just to give a bit of an update on where we are at the minute. So obviously we inputted for milestone 2, which was really successful, and I know a number of colleagues that's on the webinar today supported us through the development and validation of our products, not just for construction but BSE as well. And that milestone was really successful, and we got some really good feedback from that. So for those of you who were involved, just a big thank you, really. We're hitting a lot of milestones and intermittent milestones as well, so we're progressing along really well. And we're now working towards milestone 3, which is where we need to engage with more employees and providers and getting input, not just into the content, but into the reviewing of the content, and then ultimately the validation, and then finally the sign-off, which we're hoping to achieve this month now. Actually, September's come around really quick from when we started these back in April time. So, the ball is moving really, really rapidly. And we need you guys involved as well. So if, providers that are on the call, or you have employers that may be suitable to join us, then please let us know and get in touch with us, myself, Rob, Salim or Michael, and let us know that you're interested in supporting and being part of the development of this, and ultimately have your say as well. It may not be yourself necessarily, it could be your staff or your colleagues within your centre who may be interested in getting involved. And we're trying to, ultimately for contractual obligations as well, but we need to really broaden the horizon of who we're engaging with. So please don't take it personally if we're sort of engaged with you for one step but not for the remaining ones. It's because we're trying to just increase the participation from centres and from employers around the development and validation of the TQ content. So that is moving along rapidly at the minute. So again, if you are interested as a centre, as a provider, or if you have employers that you work with that would be really suitable to support us with the validation, then please let us know who they are. And you can email qualitydevelopment@City and Guilds, or alternatively you can email any one of the contact details from myself and my colleagues on the earlier slide. So that's where we are. And the next slide we're going to go on to now is a bit of a discussion, a bit of a plea. Through the validation for milestone 2, we had a lot of discussion, not just with the providers and our consultants, but with employers as well. And there's been quite a lot of concern raised around carpentry and joinery. And because they've been combined for assessment and delivery, and ultimately that's not necessarily City and Guild's fault, that's just the way it was presented to us from IFAIT, that carpentry and joinery ultimately were together. However, feedback from providers and employers is that the assessment ultimately has to be set at level 3. Now, we have to assess both carpentry and joinery, which a lot of people have argued are 2 different disciplines. Yes, we know technically, fundamentally, a lot of the basics are the same and they use a lot of the same equipment, etc. But practically and technically, they are, worlds apart. And, we need to present this feedback to IFAIT and to the relevant people, ultimately who will make a decision on whether carpentry and joinery is ultimately split, and whether that's for its entirety or whether it's just for assessment. Who knows? It may not be at all, to be perfectly honest, but we need to present some feedback to IFAIT and this is, you know, as myself and Rob and Salim and Michael have commented on previous webinars and during validation, the feedback is so important because, you know, we need your feedback to ultimately then present it onto iFate. We've done a very, very quick, short survey, and I mean very, very short. There's the link to it, or if you have a QR scanner, QR reader on your phone, there's a code there as well which you can scan, and it'll take you straight to the survey. And ultimately, you know, we need your voice to be heard. So please feel free to pass this on to any carpentry and joinery staff. Doesn't matter if you've got 5 staff, every single one of them can respond to this survey, because it's about, you know, not just a centre voicing an opinion, it's about an individual, a carpenter and a joiner voicing an opinion. That's the importance of this survey, not necessarily just a centre or an employer. You know, we need iFate to understand the carpentry and joinery, whether entirely or for assessment, is separate. So if you can complete the survey, or please pass it on to all of your carpentry and joinery staff, and any employees who are carpenters and joiners as well, and ask them to complete the survey. Because ultimately, if we don't feedback, nothing will be done about it. So, you know, please, it is important that you take the time to complete that and give us that feedback. And we really, really appreciate that. And thank you very much. I will now hand you back, well, I'll hand you over to my colleague Michael from EAL, who's going to present the next set of slides.
Thanks, Jason. So really the next couple of slides is a timeline of the planned events in order to support you, to prepare you for September 2021 delivery. So if we just click on to the next one, please. So the first webinar really is to support approval, which will be sometime in September, October time. We will give you the specific details to follow really. We have some T-level familiarisation webinars planned for mid-November 2020. There's going to be 2 BSE generic ones and 2 construction generic ones as well. And really these webinars are really about recruitment and T-level awareness raising. Then in mid-December 2020, we have the occupational specialism virtual networks. And there's going to be 4 for BSE and 4 for on-site construction. And we're going to introduce you really to the technical qualifications. You may already know lots about them, but specifically then looking at the assessments and the methods behind the assessments. Then moving on to mid-January 2021, there's going to be some curriculum planning and course design webinars, 2 of them. And we're going to combine both the BSE and construction together for both those webinars. Mid-March then 2021, there's going to be a refresher webinar. Again, 2 of them, combine building services and construction webinars together. Next slide, please. And then there's going to be some tutor onboarding events, May to June 2021. And it's going to really be to support the tutors in delivering and also the quality assurance of the qualifications as well. July 2021, there's going to be a follow-up webinar for onboarding events. And then into September, December 2021, when delivery will start, we're going to introduce some ongoing one-to-one regional centre focus networks. And they're going to be as required, really, per centre or per region. And they'll be virtual or they'll be face-to-face, obviously COVID permitting. Going on then into September 2021 and onwards, there's going to be ongoing centre support. So on the last Friday of every month, there's going to be some virtual drop-in sessions for you. And then August 2020 onwards, which we've already had our first one, there's going to be the employer and industry board. And these will be scheduled meetings 3 times per year with key representatives from the industry. I'm going to hand you back over to Rob now.
Thanks a lot, Mike. So what we want to do now is almost pause and reflect for a little while, if you like. But I'm going to, while we sort of got this discussion on, I'm going to, if required, we can flick back to the 2 slides previously Mike's gone through. But what we want to hear from yourselves now, from the delivery network, really is what can we help you with? So as Mike's just said, we're going to put down, you know, some virtual networks for centres, some onboarding networks, which we call, that's really getting people on board with the qualification and the structure of it, how it should be delivered and things like that. But what support now and in the future would you like from us? So, you know, we can keep putting webinars on, and it's what, at the moment, it's what we think you need. We're very mindful that we now need to prepare you very swiftly for September 21, and we need to ask you what you actually need. So I'll drop back over the slides for a couple of minutes. I'll keep sort of rotating those two slides just for a couple of minutes while people just get chance to put some comments in the chat box. If you'd rather speak, if it's sort of a bit hard, difficult to get across in the chat, just put, I've got a point to raise, or raise hand or something like that in that question box. Sorry, I keep saying chat box, in the questions tab, and we'll pick that up and we can unmute yourselves as well. So this is not going to end today. You know, we want this to carry on. We want you to go back into your teams. We've put our contact details on these slides, which we're going to send out. Or there's the qual development email on the previous slides we've looked at as well. Go back, talk to your colleagues, discuss this with them. If you don't ask, basically, you're not going to get it. It's the sort of thing where we'll put on, if you like, what we think you want, unless you tell us otherwise. What we think you want, as I say, might be something totally different to what you actually need. So we'll just pause for a couple of minutes. I'm going to rotate back the previous couple of slides, which Mike's just run through. Okay, I'm going to start running through a few things. So thanks for your comments and questions. Thank you, Neil. Yes, so we've had a comment from colleague, common core units and the depth required for delivery, i.e. CAD, BMI. Is this an awareness of what BIM and CAD are for the core units to delivery? So yeah, that's a good point. That's something then we can pick up when we start talking about these onboarding networks, and we have these regional centre focus networks. So that things like that gives us a good heads up of what's not quite clear to you. So thanks for that. Great point. What dates will be in the range statements? common workbook for the core units. Yep, again, something we can pick up as part of the networks. So please keep typing. This can be examples of what, not necessarily what events as well we need on, what you want included in these type of events as well.
Yeah, I mean, just on the point around online resources and schemes of work, obviously, for ourselves, obviously, we host a number of resources at the moment across construction and building services through our smart screen platform. And yeah, the answer really to some of that around resourcing and some of our digital resources, yes, we will have resources available for T-levels in readiness for when these products go live next September. So our digital learning resources team currently working through exactly some pieces of work in terms of what we can host on the platform and which resources are going to be supporting some of the technical qualification content. So yeah, please do look out for this, and we'll be sending out more details nearer the time, and schemes of work and just some other exemplar material as well.
Just to add to that, I think a lot of the focus on that, Salim and colleagues, is a lot of the focus will be around the core content, because ultimately there is a lot of material currently on Smart Screen and out there regarding the occupational specialisms, whether that's construction or BSE. So I think a lot of the focus will be on the core, because that is ultimately the new elements that will be new to a lot of delivery staff. And ultimately as well, we have our partner Hodder Education, who are developing a range of textbooks, which are sort of branded with City and Guilds as well. And ultimately it is our consultants that work on those as well. So, and again, Hodder are focusing on the elements of the core, as there's already a lot of textbooks and a lot of material out there relating to the trades, if you like. Plus the core is going to be so big that it is going to be quite a substantial resource to pull together. So again, more information will come out over the next sort of 12 months regarding that as well, and we'll always keep you updated.
Thanks, Jason. And we've had a couple of other good comments around, exemplar student tutor packs, schemes of works. Yeah. If I can just throw something out there as well, we have still got some other points we need to run through, but obviously we've got the core, we've got an exam, and the employer set project is something new. What sort of support would you like as centres with that? Is it exemplar materials? Do we need to run through maybe how to prepare people for the, it's a change of delivery style for it, isn't it? For people who've run technicals before, it's probably a lot closer to this than people who've run the general VRQs, let's say, which are mainly in our sector, I must say, multiple choice test and practical assessment, which is just ongoing through a workbook, etc. Now we're moving to a different format where we've got an exam at the end of the year, an exam for the core, this employer set project in the core, and then where we've got a paired subject in BSE, we're going to have 2 synoptic assignments. So we've got to think about the delivery of that. And where we've just got one specialism in on-site and BSE, we're going to have a synoptic assignment to assess that. And that's going to assess that whole occupational specialism. So try and have a think and go back to your teams. Like I say, this is starting to sow the seed, really. We've got to start planning this, and we need you to tell us what you need. So go back to your teams around them assessment models and say, right, what would we like City and Guilds to give us the heads up on, and things like that. So just going to sow the seed on that while we start looking through the other comments and suggestions we've had. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I've just had a colleague suggest a forum where we could meet face to face when things are safe. I think we've put in the chat there, it's a great idea that. It's something we've actually already asked about, to see whether we can actually host something through Smart Screen as well. I think it's great, if we can what we'll be driving, Jason and myself, will be tasked eventually to set up some regional networks around this, and we're looking to maybe tailor them to occupational specialisms, or to BSE and on-site, and separate them out after a certain generic session and things like that. But as well as that, that'll have to wait until we're out face to face again. As well as that, we are looking to try and host a remote forum as well, possibly on smart screen, like some of the smart screen forums we've got at the moment. If we could get one for T-levels, that would give a chance for you to ask questions, but also to share material. Where we're looking at this new industry engagement and things like that, and industry placement, how are centres dealing with it? Let's share good practice and let's share materials. And if there is something useful people find out there which is helping delivery, we can share things like that. That's what we want from this as well. We want to try and drive that whole, almost build a family of potential T-level delivery network up, and then that'll obviously just grow. It might then be regional networks, and it might eventually be a huge online forum where we can support each other, and we're going to try and kick that off as well. Again, we've had some good suggestions, exemplar assessment material like the employer set project and example responses. That's something I believe the assessment team are looking to do. We've got to try and produce some exemplar materials as part of the project. We've had a question about how the employer set project is standardised. Basically, that won't be specialism by specialism. That employer set project will be simply around the core. So that's actually set, and we're inviting employers in now to try and give input on that, whether it's relevant to industry, whether it's fit for purpose. So everybody, just to clarify, everybody will sit the same employer set project for construction on site and then for building services. So they will be different for the two T-levels, for on-site and BSE, but everybody will within on-site will sit the same employer set project, and everybody within the services industry will sit the same employer set project. So that's being finalised now, if you like, for submission. Yeah, there's a lot around exams and responses, and I think that's probably key. There's some good points there I think we can take away. It's not just example papers, because this is no longer a multiple choice response. We also need example exams with responses, so you as tutors can see the sort of level of response we'd be expecting from potential candidates and things like that. That's the sort of thing where these networks would be great to start and look at that, throw something out there on the tables or virtually, and sort of let you have a crack at completing the work, and then sort of trying to see what do we expect of the level from a candidate and that type of thing. So there's some great ideas there we can take away and hopefully build into these topics of support, if you like, we're going to be putting on for you. We'll print this question tab and save these as ideas moving forward. With regards industry placement, we've had a topic there where can we try and work together with local employers now? Can we support each other with that? We are going to try and support centres as much as possible with that. We're going to try and hopefully support through the various.
Yeah, I mean, do you want me to just pick up on this as well, Rob? Because obviously,
please do, mate. Yeah,
the work experience element, although it's part of the T-level, it's something out of our hands in terms of we're not managing that. It's part of the T-level program, but DFE are actually managing that whole process around work placement. However, saying that, given how this industry and how its makeup is set up, obviously, to get a number of learners access to the workplace. Currently for apprenticeships, there's a lot of hoops that people need to jump through. So we are working with the Department for Education, and they're also working with the card scheme providers. So CSCS, JIB for both mechanical and electrical, and obviously CSCS for all of the construction trades as well. So there are a number of discussions that are taking place, and the plan is to host a few more webinars in the future once some of the issues have actually been ironed out and what that will actually look like. So the Department for Education are basically looking to widen this network and engage with the Wave 1 and Wave 2 providers to help and assist the network in terms of finding work placements as well.
Thanks a lot, Salim. So we've just had another couple of comments in. We're just going to say we'll move on. With the industry placements at 350 hours, opportunity set. Yeah, we're getting a few queries around the industry placement. And unfortunately, like Salim says, we're not actually developing that element of the programme at the moment. We'll be working with centres eventually when that's been summarised and finalised, but the bit we're developing at the moment is the technical qualification. So we'll hopefully be supporting with that, but we've not got all the answers on that at the moment, because this first wave 1, which I know some of you are Wave 1 providers, there's a lot of feedback coming in through that. They're trialling a lot of elements of the industry placement. They're looking at the amount of hours. Can some of it been delivered, in the workplace, and then some of it external from the workplace, but very much industry involvement still and things like that. So it's not so much. Yeah, we are going to be looking at that, and thanks for the comments on that. We appreciate that. So I'm going
if I could just add to that, Rob, that obviously the employer set project is separate to the industry placement, so it can't be an integral part of it. Just to clarify that, it is separate. Industry placement is separate to the employer set project.
Yes, good point. Good point. Thanks, Mike. So we will sort of progress on. As I say, Salim's just going to monitor that questions box while the rest of us are sort of finalising the last few slides. Our details are basically on there, and what we've also put out there as well, and we'd ask you support on, is a survey. And this is to, again, just to give us an idea very quickly. It's a couple of minutes. What do you want for September to 2021? What's your delivery going to look like, etc. I think there's about 10 questions on there. It should take you a couple of minutes to complete. If we could encourage you, please, to complete that survey. We're going to be sending the slides out after the event. The survey link is on that slide, so when you hover over that there, that is the link there. You can click on that, obviously, when we send the slides out. The more staff you could encourage to complete that as well. Obviously, the more people fill it in, the more ideas we're going to get, and the better, hopefully, we'll be able to make your events, whether they be remotely or face-to-face or things like that. That's what we're fishing for, basically. We need to know what you want us to do. We can create all manner of activities, as I keep saying, what we think you want, but we need to know what you actually want. So share this with other staff who are going to be involved in delivery. Share it with management teams who might be involved in curriculum planning and want support. Literally anybody who's going to be involved in this process, let's get your ideas of what you want support on. And then we can make these very beneficial, interactive, and hopefully useful, because we don't want to roll this program out and it not be useful for you as the delivery network. That's the whole idea behind it. So there's the survey there if you would. We've also put on there, next slide, a few links. This is to some of the ETF material and stuff on the gov.uk website, which again, some useful information on there just to point you into the right direction. If you haven't seen that already, it's nothing really. We're trying to keep linked in with other organisations who are looking to support providers with T-levels and promote their material as well. Obviously, it's all about trying to help our centres. We're also looking at doing some work with the Association of Colleges to try and develop material, and they're going to promote our events and things like that as well for providers. So we're really trying to pull things together for you, and that's what today's all about, is to try and give us the ideas of what you want so we can pull that together appropriately. So there's some links on the slide there. And then just for people who maybe not been on one of these webinars before and not received the slides, there's all our contact details there. Obviously, as well as that, myself, Jason, etc., are on LinkedIn. If you want to sort of contact us on LinkedIn or link in with us, we welcome that as well. We'll be providing a lot of information through there. There's the Construction and Building Services email address, but as well as that, there's the email updates tab we're just pointing to there on the bottom of the slide. Any newsletters and things like that, we're sending out direct, but the majority of the information we send out for updates goes out through that platform. So if you've not signed up to that, please do sign up to the email updates tab. We're also, just before we close, just going to put something out there. If you have got any contacts of niche employers, especially in fields like the electrical electronic engineering, protection systems, heating and ventilating, those type of arenas, if you've got any industry bodies or people who are linked with employers who might be able to support us in the final stages of this development, we would welcome any contact details, or we can, obviously please send them ours if you think they'd like to get involved. As Jason said earlier in the program, it's been a tough journey because we can't keep using the same people throughout the process. Different milestone, we need to get different people involved, we need to get different employers involved. We can't just keep using the same contract. And obviously, coming up to the end of the development, some of these niche areas are starting to dry up. But not just for the niche areas, we want to try and involve as many industry and provider contacts as we possibly can, so we can ensure validation is useful and meaningful. So again, any providers, but mainly employers, if you would, please contact us through the details on the slides, and we'll try and get you involved. And hopefully some of those niche providers can help get us over the line. So we're just going to pause for a couple of minutes now. Obviously, I can't see this questions tab, but we'll just give it another minute or two, just if anybody has got any final questions before we close for today. Okay, we can't see any more questions coming through. We have had a couple of pointers, and thanks for those who've just directed us to some potential contacts out there, etc. So appreciate that. If anybody else can think of anybody, or go back to the teams and try and support us with that, we'd appreciate it, as well as sharing the survey when we get this out to you with as many, obviously, staff members as possible to try and develop and share the ideas we mentioned previously. Apart from that, on behalf of us all today, I'd just like to say thanks again for hopefully, being a useful afternoon and giving us your time. and we'll appreciate your attendance at the next one and speak to you soon. Thanks a lot.